both live on For All of Here TV. I'm gonna try to do this again. I'm gonna do it another way. I try to do a video. I'm gonna try to see if I can repost it. Was talking about the Corey Holcomb, Anton Daniels beef situation that happened at Corey's studio on Tuesday night. Um, I was just thinking about some similar situations I was in. Didn't happen in my studio, didn't happen in my house, didn't happen anywhere on my property. But I've had situations where it happened, may have happened at a party, might have happened at school, something like that. And I had to teach my son this because my son used to get some scuffles too. So anyway, sometimes, honestly, in life, we have to learn to know when to walk away. When a situation is so tense, and it's even without even worth the aggravation of doing what you're doing out here, sometimes it's not even worth the aggravation of getting into a mix-up for something you don't have to get mixed up for. And the reason why I say it, because you've had things where people got into fights, violently was injured or got killed over the dumbest stuff, or based on what somebody said about you, or somebody touched your shoe, or you talking to my girl, or blah blah blah. It's just some old dumb stuff. And there are certain situations where you literally do have to walk away from. And I was thinking about that because I've been in some situations like that, and it happened with me in the park years ago. We had reserved a park out in Virginia. It was me, my son. It was a group of people was out there already. Our site. We politely told we had reserved it, and they got smart about it. They got real short about it, and I almost got into it with two guys over here. And the guy, he tried to get me a look at him. I said, "Where's the sign?" And where's the sign? It was a sign. He actually said it was reserved. I looked dead at him and I pointed right in the direction of the sign because I saw the sign was already on left me before he opened his mouth. See, he was gonna try. What he was gonna do? He was gonna try to steal on me. And I looked right at him. He couldn't do nothing once he found out looking right at him when he did that. And I pointed to the sign because he thought I was gonna look the other way. He knew what he was gonna do. He was trying to jump. But I had the upper hand on things. But nevertheless, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not a violent guy. I don't believe in violence. I've always, since long as I remember, really it's about the age of 6 or 7 when I first started understanding about and learning about Dr. King. And here the crazy part about it was just a couple of years after he passed away, matter of fact, a couple of years after he was assassinated, I started really getting into it. Early on. Very early on. Right at the height of not long after that happened. Yeah, sure did. Because they immediately started teaching it in all the black schools. And I jumped right on it. Sure did. And I think that people have gotten away from this lesson about the nonviolent movement. I was going to wait until Monday to talk about it. I'm still going to talk about this on Monday because I do believe, I know some people say, it's a day of service, of course. And for me, it is a day of service. But my day of service is to talk and expound on it to the young people. That is what I do. I do this every year. I've been doing it for several years, matter of fact. Because it needs to be addressed. And I don't think that a lot of young people understand the real impact that Dr. King had on our culture. I still don't think they understand that. I don't know if some of them ever do. And I know part of it is this education system. Years ago, I found out my son was telling me in school. He said they don't teach them black history in school, and I was appalled by that. How would you not teach a young man through 2000s with all the resources out there, black history in school, in elementary and high schools? I was shocked by that. So I started buying the books. I started pointed to YouTube channels, and all kind of other resources. Brought up videos and everything. Because I wanted him to know his black history. You know? He needed to know. It's important. It's important for everybody to know. Don't care what color you are. You know? It's our history and black history in this country that built this country. I was in Atlanta one time, the Mecca. Really the home of Dr. Martin Luther King, matter of fact. But definitely the Mecca of the civil rights movement. I was there. I actually took a class. Well, I take that back. I was on a business trip. I'll leave it at that. Down there. And I walked from my hotel. My hotel, I stayed at the Hilton down there. I literally walked from the Hilton directly into the hood. Had no problem with it. Walked from downtown. It was a short, I ain't gonna say it was a short walk. It's about a good 35, 40 minutes. It was a nice brisk walk from my hotel all the way to the King Center. By myself. Sure did. I went to the King Center, and the King Center is a big place. Not only do they hold the library of all the books related to Dr. King and family members of the King family that I know of, some of who I know that run it and work there. But Dr. King's tomb is right there, I think right outside the store or something. It's right nearby, right there. And I remember first time I went there and I saw it, man, I cried, I broke down, man. Oh my God. Because this man, in terms of black history, meant everything to me. Because I was born the same year that Dr. King got the Nobel Peace Prize. That very year. I was born that same year. And change was already in the process. And my parents were like the last generation, or among the last generation to grow up around Jim Crow. They were raised in Jim Crow, unfortunately. You know. So, but I'm gonna get that in another second. But my thing of it is, Dr. King, no doubt, in my mind, was sent here by God to do a mission. You know, he was raised on strong religious principles about that. And he also has studied Gandhi. And at the King Center, they also have several artifacts related to Dr. King, including the fact that he was a student as far as studying of Gandhi, right, around liberation free. And he looked up to him. They have a statue of Dr. King, I think, on one part, I think, and I know on the other part, Gandhi's statue is on the other side. No joke. And all of that to me meant something. It meant about people who stood on the square, who stood their ground. You know? And you can stay your ground and not be violent. You know? Because Dr. King learned his nonviolence movement from Gandhi. He learned about it. He kind of studied it. But he took it and brought it here to the masses. And he wore it like a badge on a sleeve. And I think more of us should do more of that. Enough of this, all this, well, I got to fight to get a point across. No, you don't. You really don't. Unless you are doing a boxing match. No, you don't. And I'm talking about, like, you know, a sanctioned boxing match, or just, you know, some people do, but they don't do it to kill. They do it to knock off some steam. you know. But as far as, anything beyond that, you know, sometimes when I beef with family members, man, you know what I do? I get my butt off the phone. I walk away. Or I go what I call radio silent. Radio silent, where I just shut everything off and, verbally, I just don't say anything. There are certain things you can do, or take a long walk. There's things you can do to quell situations. There is. I'm not saying that you don't have a right to have a disagreement, because people often do. But if you want to de-escalate certain situations, there's things you have to do to de-escalate. And there's a lot of things you should do to de-escalate the situation the right way. Living in a dysfunctional family, being raised on one, sometimes stuff that they get this escalated like it should have. I'll leave it at that. But I had to learn for myself not to do it in my relationship, in my household. Not to let something get to a point of disastrous situations. Had to, man. It's a hard road to toe, but sometimes you have to do it. So, I don't want to say too much else right now. I just want to say that for right now. I'll have more to talk about it on my annual Dr. King Observation podcast. I will talk about it later. All right, guys. I kind of cut it short. I don't know what you guys talking about in the chat here. I'm out.